Hola, hola, amigas. Welcome to another episode of Modern Latina in Midlife. I'm Sonia Flores, holistic life and business coach, podcast producer, and intuitive advisor, and your host. Today, I have a very special guest, Laura Dionisio. We had an amazing conversation about making pivots in your career, in your life at any age. It was so powerful, and she dropped so many great wisdom gems. So I hope that you really enjoy this conversation, that you get something really powerful out of it. Laura Dionisio is a purposeful career transition and operations partner and founder of Lead Intact, where she helps high achievers ditch the shiny but soul sucking version of success and build careers, businesses, and lives that actually feel damn good. An engineer by trade with a pivot filled path from aerospace to automotive to coaching, Laura blends spreadsheets with soul, pairing deep inner work with practical strategy and operations so people don't just think about change, they actually move. Born in the Philippines, raised across multiple countries, and now based in Brooklyn, she supports career transitioners and entrepreneurs in translating big vision into grounded execution with clarity, confidence, and a whole lot of badassery. She lives in Brooklyn with her two cats, Cooper and Roxy, who supervise all major life decisions. Welcome to the podcast, Laura. Welcome to the podcast, Laura. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. So I invited you to the show because we had our little coffee chat earlier in the week, and I just thought your story was so great and that it would be so amazing for our listeners to listen to and potentially find some inspiration in your story because it's so great. And I know that I only got a short version of it. So I'd love for you to share with our listeners what your story is and what's gotten you from where you originally started in corporate to
Mhm.
what you're doing now. So if you can share a little
Okay.
bit about that.
Yes. Okay. So I was the basically typical, I would say, high performer. I had a career in aerospace engineering, like Sonia just said in my bio, also automotive. And within that space, I really did feel like I thought, that I was just following my soul calling. And maybe that was true at the time. And so it got to the point where I even started my own business as a side. It was just going to be a hobby, like a passion project. Because again, I was a corporate girly. I was all about how do I get ahead, not for the prestige, but because it really meant a lot to me. And so what started happening, and I was telling this to you, Sonia, over a coffee chat, is that this little side business, which is my company Lead Intact, where I was helping other people, primarily women, find their passion. Some of them were leaving their jobs. Some of them were going to like completely pivoting to maybe another corporate career, but completely different. And I found myself enjoying that work a lot more than my engineering job, which was really cool, by the way. I'd worked on really cool projects. I felt really intellectually stimulated. I loved my team. And then what happened was I just started noticing that for the past, I don't know, maybe like 2, 3 months, I was having a lot of thoughts in my head. And rather than feeling grateful or joyous or happy about the life that I had built, that I worked so hard to build, I was shooting all over myself. You know that term, right? It's
Absolutely.
like I should be happy, right?
Hmm.
I'm at this job where I have an amazing team. I love my manager. The project's really interesting. I'm working less and getting paid more. I should be happy. I should be grateful. I'm living in New York City. I never thought I'd live here. Why aren't I happy? And on the outside, I really look like I had it all, like I'm working remote. I have a great team. I'm leading this new project at work. I'm volunteering. I'm having fun with my friends. But inside, like on the day to day basis, I found myself doing what's called the revenge bedtime procrastination. And Sonia, we talked about this. Revenge bedtime
Hmm.
procrastination, for those of you who don't know, is basically when you haven't spent enough time for yourself during the day, such that by the time it's supposed to be your bedtime, which for me is like 10, maybe 11 p.m. Rather than winding down, you find yourself scrolling on social media, reading a book, doing anything but going to bed. And I remember when I described that to you, Sonia, you're like, I didn't know the term, but I know exactly what that means. And,
Mm-hmm.
and at this point, I had been doing my side business as a coach myself for 4 years. And I'm like, okay, Laura, something is clearly wrong. And this loop kept happening over and over again. As soon as I said something is wrong, no, something can't be wrong. You worked really hard to get here. This was your dream. Be grateful, be happy. Just give it one more day, give it one more day. And breaking point for me is that one day I was doing the revenge bedtime procrastination so hard that I looked out the window and the sun was coming up. And I was just like, okay, I can't ignore this. I'm supposed to be at work in like 4 hours, like 4 in the morning. And so I was just like, I'm just going to go to bed and I'm going to wake up and just make a decision on something. I don't know, but something. So I went to bed, woke up, and I was like, okay, clearly I can't deny that something's wrong. I need to take some time, pause, take some space, and not judge myself anymore. I'm going to put the judgment down, put the shoulds down, and just be honest with myself. Just be real. So I sent a message to my team lead, my manager, my teammates, like, hey, I'm not feeling well. I'm taking the day off. I like postponed or canceled or moved my meetings and all that. And then I was going to settle back in bed and go back to sleep because I had just been sleeping for 4 hours because I was
Mm-hmm.
revenge bedtime procrastinating so hard the
Mm-hmm.
night before. What I noticed, Sonia, which was really hard to ignore, I couldn't ignore it, is as soon as I sent that last message, I immediately felt energized. I immediately felt like, oh no, let me make the bed and like get some stuff. Or what did I need to do around the house? And I didn't even need coffee that day, which I'm a huge coffee person.
Mm-hmm.
And even that energetic, joyous, like feeling that I had told me something. And I realized, oh, uh-oh, I know what this is. And I had to be honest with myself because that's what I said I was going to do that day. If I am this happy taking the day off, what have I been doing every day? For the
Mm-hmm.
past few months, I've been feeling this way.
Wow.
And I just want the listeners to know it's not that I decided then and there to just go off and quit my job. No, I just asked myself that question and gave myself space that day to be honest without holding myself accountable to take action on anything, any thought that came up. I just gave myself the space to dream for the first time in a few months.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting chills even just thinking about it
Yeah.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm getting them too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I started being honest with myself. 3 years ago, I told myself, so this was August 2025 when this happened. In 2022, I told myself in 3 years, I want to make a choice and I want to make an honest choice. And I want to know if this life in corporate is for me and having this side gig, or if I want to flip it.
Mm-hmm.
If I want my passion to be like my full-time thing. And what
Mm-hmm.
does full-time even mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I'm like, this is the moment. And for the first time, my mind was quiet. These thoughts of like, this is not how you planned. What are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? Are you sure you're not ready? And because I made that decision, suddenly it's like all the parts of me were on board and we're like, oh, team, let's go, Laura. And I started
Mm-hmm.
remembering I'm not starting from scratch. I've had a business
Mm-hmm.
for 5 years at that point, a side business.
Mm-hmm.
And I have changed so many people's lives already, not just one on one, but I've been given the opportunity. And this is how Sonia and I met to teach a group of amazing life coaches on this,
Mm-hmm.
like a 6-month program
Mm-hmm.
that. And that was something that I came up with because it was inspired. It wasn't because I was being analytical, like what my day job at the time required me to do. It didn't require research, it required heart. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm actually damn good at it and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just saw myself differently. I saw myself as, okay, the plan that I had initially, certain amount of savings in the bank, having a business plan, whatever. It's like, even if I had that, but I didn't have that belief in myself that yes, I can, and I didn't get to that point where I was like, this is what I meant to do, it wouldn't have meant anything.
Mhm.
And so from that decision point, I'm like, this is it. I
Mhm.
wrote my 2-week notice. I set up a meeting with my boss like 2 days after that day that I took the day off. I told her. And then that's my biggest pivot point story to date, where I was just like, this is it. And I will tell you, it's been probably like 6 months. I have never felt so free, so happy, so joyous, and so much in gratitude, even more so than when I had a quote unquote like steady, safe paycheck coming in.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so yeah, that's my
Yeah.
story.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. As you're saying all those things, I'm just getting chills up and down my body. And to me, that I'm very sensitive and I'm intuitive. And that to me always feels like a huge confirmation and just I'm on board with you. Like you're so on the right
You.
path. I feel it and I feel the energy. And so thank you for sharing that. And I can imagine that there's a lot of listeners already that can relate with some of the stuff that you are sharing. Just like having, yeah, I mean, just revenge bedtime procrastination. Like you said, when you said that to me, I was like, wait,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wrote it down and I've already like looked up what it means. I'm like, I need to read on this more, like what is
Mm-hmm.
happening, because I can 100% relate. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that can totally relate to that, like that late night scrolling. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I definitely want to unpack maybe once I study it more and maybe do a podcast episode on that. Can we just have a quick heart to heart? If you're anything like me, you have a vision board full of big dreams and a notes app full of brilliant ideas. But when it actually comes time to sit down and do the thing, suddenly the laundry feels urgent, the inbox is screaming, and working in total isolation starts to feel, well, a little lonely. We weren't meant to build our empires in a vacuum. That is exactly why I created the co-working circle. It's a quiet, focused, and deeply supportive space for womenpreneurs, podcasters, and creatives in this community to come together and actually move the needle. But here's the magic. When we work in a collective circle, our intentions are amplified. There is a tangible shift in the room when a group of powerhouse women all decide to focus at once. We feed off of each other's energy, we lift the mental fog together, and suddenly that deep work you've been procrastinating on, it just flows. Twice a month, we meet on Zoom for 90 minutes. We start with a quick energy clearing and intention setting. Then we dive into 60 minutes of pure quiet focus, no makeup required, messy buns very much encouraged, and zero pressure to be on. We work on our own, but together on Zoom. And then we come back together to share our progress, get feedback from one another, and potentially even collaborate. You can cancel anytime. I would love to hold space for you there. Head to the link in my show notes or visit bluechakrastudio.com/co-working circle to grab your spot. I'll see you in the circle. So that's been recent, you said 6 months or so, you said?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So since
Wow.
August of 2025.
Wow. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big badass move, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, okay. So when I read your bio, you shared that you were born in the Philippines and raised across multiple countries. And, even though not most, so this is a Modern Latina in Midlife podcast because I'm the Modern Latina, but I do
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of listeners, not all, but I do have a lot of listeners that are Latina women in midlife. But as in many immigrant and Latina households, success is often defined by stability, prestigious titles, that steady job,
Mm-hmm.
corporate. I know for my parents, like, oh, being in corporate was like, that's what they came to this country for, so that they could provide us with these opportunities. Was that the case for you? And if so, like, how did your early cultural expectations shape your original path into aerospace engineering, your corporate
Mm-hmm.
life?
Hmm. That's a great question because it is very true. And I remember a moment in one of my career pivots, not this latest one actually, where I didn't mention this in my bio, but although most of my background has been in engineering, I actually left engineering for about 3.5 years to do something that at the time felt really, really scary. And I remember having a conversation with my parents about it. Just a little bit quick backstory on this. I was given the opportunity through my job. At the time, I lived in Southern California to have a temporary relocation package to work in upstate New York. That's actually how I ended up in New York to begin with. Supposed to be a 6-month project. It was specifically for that project to make sure that there's communication between us and our supplier, who was in upstate New York. And I ended up being there for a year. And it is completely different from because upstate New York versus LA. I remember a lot of people, not so much my parents, but friends and all that. They're like, "Are you insane? You're an LA like city girl. Even in the Philippines, you lived in Manila. Like, what are you gonna do in upstate New York?" But I'm sure you know this, Sonia, and your listeners probably can also understand this. But there was just this feeling of like, no, I need this. And that year was so magical because it forced me to slow down. I was not in a city. I didn't have friends at first. I was by myself and I fell in love with the area so much that when my job moved me back to SoCal, and because I asked, can I stay and be a remote employee? That wasn't popular 12 years ago. So they had said
Mm-hmm.
no. I started thinking about, I'm going to move there. And I was fortunate enough and again, this goes back to our conversation, Sonia, with manifestation. I so badly was just like, it's just going to happen. I got 2 job offers. One was more, and this is to the point of cultural expectation, something that I had done before, something safe, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
um, something that was with the government. So stable, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
another job where it would require me to leave engineering. By the way, I was in the middle of getting my master's in systems
Mm-hmm.
engineering at that time.
Wow.
So just to show you like how
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote illogical it would be to
Mm-hmm.
take that second job to leave engineering, which is what I have had my experience in. I was getting my degree, my second degree in, and for a job that like was not even really defined. It was kind of like vaguely defined. They were creating the position for me. And I was talking to my parents about it. And, I have to give credit to my parents. In some ways, they are traditional Filipino parents, but in other ways, they have always supported our dreams, what we wanted. So when I talked to them about the choices, I remember both of them and my dad in particular were just like, well, Laura, like, but the stability in government. You don't even know anything about this other job aside from the fact that your friend is like an AVP in it and it sounds fun, but this other thing, government, you're not going to they're not going to unlikely to like fire you or get laid off. Like that's just more stable and safe. But ultimately they just said it's up to you. So how my cultural background has shaped my experience is that especially for immigrants because I moved back and forth between countries and I like moved back to the US the final time when I was like 13, 14. So I think those who are either immigrants themselves or first generation, you have like this duality in your mind, right? Like I was young enough when I moved here that I understood that American just go for it dream. But I grew up in the Philippines too, where it was like stability,
Mm-hmm.
safety, comfort. So how it impacted me is like for the longest time, there was that voice in my head that was like, be safe, be safe, be safe. Even like the story that I shared when we first got on the podcast, that's why I was doing the revenge bedtime procrastination because my
Mm-hmm.
heart was like, no, you're done, girl, you're done. But that
Mm-hmm.
cultural upbringing was like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
This job it's fun ish, it's easy for you. Like the paycheck's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as much as I love my culture and where I came from, there are certain aspects where now, as I'm getting older, I get to look at and decide, do I still carry this with me? Or is this something that I just say thank you and gratitude and release? Like bless and
Mm-hmm.
release,
Mm-hmm.
basically. And that idea of safety being placed outside of me, like in a job, in a situation, is something that I just bless and release because real safety comes from within, like your feeling, right? Because even in the corporate job, it's not like they just picked me for funsies. It's because I brought my own skills. I brought my experience. And, Sonia, even when you were on my podcast, it's something that I really love that you shared. You were like, you were betting on you. You're like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the
Yeah.
one. I'm the one who has this.
Yes.
So the
Yeah.
safety is within me.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you. I was about to touch on that. So, wow, that's amazing. And so I was going to ask, how did you get through that uncertainty?
Mhm.
Like, was there something more that you implemented, or was it just in that bless and release piece? Like, how did you like navigate that? Because that's sometimes that voice sitting on your shoulder, it's heavy and loud.
Mhm. So one of my coaches, she gave me this exercise to basically collect evidence of times when you were facing uncertainty or whatever you define your hard to be. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
I used to say, I just, like I just want to know, I need to know, I must know. And as I've gotten older and like as I've really like done the work of personal development, I realized that's not a narrative that serves me anymore. And so knowing that she encouraged me to come up with a list of evidence, and because I'm me, I called it "What is my badass manifestation evidence journal?" And so
Mm-hmm.
that's really helpful. It's really helpful to think about it. It's really helpful to document it, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
helpful in times when you're feeling really scared to remember that no matter how big that moment feels to you right now, you have faced something
Mm-hmm.
before that felt just as big. And actually having that badass manifestation like journal, like evidence journal, helped me actually talk to my boss and say, I want to put my 2-week notice in because even though, sure, objectively, this is the riskiest thing I've ever done, I reminded myself that there have been many moments in my life where maybe external circumstances were different, but I felt the same.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
felt the same level of,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, what am I doing? Is this the right thing? Even though now, of course, when you look back, you're like, oh, of course, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But at the moment, it's like a great reminder. I've felt this way before.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the wonderful moments and things that have happened in my life because I said yes to this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
look what leaping into uncertainty with faith in myself and in the universe
Mm-hmm.
gave me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so that's the other tool that I used personally to get me through the fear of leaping into uncertainty.
Mm-hmm. I love that manifestation evidence journal. I've done that before also. When
Mhm.
I was going through something and I can't even remember what it was. Of course, I didn't have that fancy of a name for it, which is, I love that for you. But I was working with the coach at the time that suggested that. So
Mhm.
you were working with the coach through this process?
Yes, I was. And even when I left my corporate job, I had a coach as well. I had two coaches as well. I actually think you can get a lot of amazing things done. You can manifest things on your own. And even in my evidence journal, I have a lot of really cool things I've done on my own. And when you have the right level of support, especially if it's a coach who's been there, done that, is still doing that,
Mhm.
it just feels different. You get there faster. And, sometimes it's not the easiest experience because you're faced with your limiting beliefs faster as well.
Mhm.
But then you heal quicker because you have that reflection. It's really hard to see yourself sometimes even and I've worked with a lot of coaches who are like, I know better, I should know better. Here's the thing. When it's you, it's you can't really be expected to be like your coach self when it comes to yourself, right?
Mhm.
So like for your listeners who are coaches or who do a lot of studying on their own, like my message to you is like please be kind to yourself. If you find yourself judging yourself for like, oh, I should know better, do better, you're human. Like
Mhm.
it's okay. And
Mhm.
also
Mhm.
probably find a support system
Yeah.
that can help you
Yeah.
move through the transition quicker and easier.
Mhm. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. That is so powerful. You said a few things here that are really, really key for me. Even when you're a coach or a therapist or in any sort of lead role, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it is hard for you to see when you're in the trenches and you're so in it, especially when it's hard. It's hard sometimes to see what's right in front of you. It's so weird. And yeah, I try self-coaching myself through things and I can. And sometimes I hit a wall and I know that to
Mhm.
go deeper, I need to get help. But I was listening to somebody this morning, one of my coaches, and she was saying it was in a teaching, and she was saying, which I loved that she said this, and it's just kind of, when you need to hear a message, it just keeps
Mhm.
coming through in different areas, and you're
Mhm.
reinforcing that for me right now. As a coach, you learn to go through things. You go through things, you overcome them, and then you can take other people through it. But not only can you take other people through it, you also help them collapse time. Like, you can help them get
Yes.
through it faster than you did,
Mhm.
whether it's overcoming an objection, whether it's overcoming a limiting belief or growing and scaling a business. Like, once you've gone through it, there's this weird power where you can help somebody go through it faster, easier, like it collapses time. And
Mhm.
so that was really, that was like, it was like a blowing realization that I had probably like within 30 minutes of this call, because I was listening to this call as I was preparing. And so for you to say that again, I was like, oh, that's powerful. Thank you.
Mhm.
So yeah, 100%. Wow. Okay. Well, I have a long list that I'm sure we're not going to get through all my questions because we've covered so much already. But let me see. In your experience, do you find that women in midlife or people in midlife, which is the ages between around 35 to 55,
Mhm.
is a frequent like catalyst or a different frequent age range, if you will, for this soul sucking realization that you talk about in your bio? And
Mhm.
if so, is it a crisis? Is it a midlife crisis? Or or is it finally having this like wisdom or badassery, if you will, to admit that we want something different? Share your
Oh my
thoughts on
gosh.
that.
So I myself am in midlife, like smack midlife. And a lot of my clients are also a midlife, exactly the range that you talk about, 35 to 50. And I think there's a few factors happening. I've thought about this a lot, Sonia, a lot, because I was also like, what is happening? And I think
Mhm.
it's a few things. One, I think that the times are different in terms of like, we are now talking about this more openly. And it is my hope, and this is part of the reason why I do this work, is that the more I do this work, you just do this work, all of us, we step into our actual calling. My hope is that the generations behind us come to this conclusion much sooner.
Mhm.
That's my hope. Having said that, like, why I personally think the pattern is like those in midlife now, especially women, by the way, is because if you think about the times when we were growing up, at least for me, the early start of my career as an engineer, it was very typical to be the only woman in a
Mhm.
meeting. Very
Mhm.
typical, even when I was in a lead position, introduced as lead
Mhm.
position, for somebody to look at me and be like, hey, honey, can you take notes?
Mhm. Oh,
And yes,
been
right?
there.
Triggered.
Mhm. Yep.
And at least in the early part of my career, this is predates Me Too, predates like the things where we're at right now. You were told to just smile and nod and keep quiet. So I'm so happy that it's not quite the same. We have a long ways to go, but we're not quite
Mhm.
where we were before. So
Mhm.
I think the pattern is we have been taught these things for a long time. Culturally, it's been reinforced.
Mhm.
And be the good girl, the nice girl. You have to be pleasant and assertive, but not too assertive.
Mhm. Mhm.
You have to be commanding of the room, but not too commanding. You still have to like soften your like there is a voice, right? Like
Yes.
I used to talk like this so that I would come across softer. And at the time, maybe that's what was needed. But I think what happens is like as we have gotten older and some of these materials started to be more readily available, the internet came on, right? Because when I started
Mm.
there were no Zoom calls. We were
No.
right. So the information is becoming more available. And I think when we get to that point of our lives where you're like 10, 15, 20 years in your career, it's like you wake up one day and you're like, what am I doing? This
Mhm.
can't be it.
Mhm.
This cannot be it. You look at all your awards, like I have like my awards, my degrees, and you're like, what was it for? I'm
Mhm.
not happy. I have premature gray hair. That's a true story. Ulcer from stress. And For what? So I
Mhm.
think that's what's happening is like because of a factor, like a combination of factors of how the times were when we enter the workforce at that
Mhm.
time. And, this type of information and conversations being more readily available now,
Mhm.
that people, women especially, are waking up now and they're
Mhm.
just like, enough,
Mhm.
enough.
Yay, I love it. Thank you. Yes, I love that for us, and I love that for the generation to come, the generations to come behind us. And I also realize how far we've come in the last few decades and just the amazing path that the previous generations before us have built, like the previous generation right before us. I mean, I was just talking to my friends last night and saying if I had been born 10 years earlier, I wouldn't have been able to have a credit card or buy a home on my own just
Hmm.
10 years earlier. I was just telling them, like, I love that I was born in this time. Like,
Hmm.
I couldn't have asked for a better time. And they're like, yeah, me too. We're just like,
Hmm.
and this is why this is proof. And to be able to be that, bridge between what it was in the generation before us to like what is going to be for the generation behind us. I love that. I love that for women. So
Hmm.
awesome.
Amen.
Yay. So for the listeners who can identify with having a great life on paper, but feel empty, feel stuck,
Hmm.
what is one question they can ask themselves tonight to determine if they need a new job or an entirely new direction? What would you say to them?
Okay. So first, I would take away the pressure of the question of, do I need a new job or new direction? Because for me, when I had that pressure, it made me resist my actual wants and desires. So I would put that aside and say, if you didn't have to take any action based on your actual desires and wants today, what do you actually want?
Mm.
What would you actually desire in your life?
Mm.
You don't have to take any act if there and there are no consequences to thinking this or dreaming.
Mhm.
What do you actually desire in your life? That's the question I would ask.
That feels so heart opening. That felt like I felt like that relief fall off of my shoulders. And I hope that the listeners are feeling that too. So start with that. Where do you take people from here? When they realize, when you're working with clients, when they
Mhm.
realize that maybe they do need a different direction. Like what would be the next step
Mm.
once they've like explored what that dream is?
So for the person who's realized, oh shit, this ain't it. What I would say to them is like, it doesn't mean, like I said, you don't have to take action right away. So I think that kind of like, whew, right? Breath of
Mhm.
fresh air. You don't have to take
Absolutely.
action right away.
Mhm.
First, I would reflect back to the person or the listener who's feeling this way. Go you. The hardest step is actually admitting what you really want. So, that right there, you being honest, is like
Mhm.
totally badass. And
Mhm.
just take that in for a moment. It's not, a
Mhm.
lot of people think that it's the action of the doing of the thing, but so much mindset and
Mhm.
internal work has to happen before you actually take action. Action is just kind of like, I don't know, like the cherry on top. But the real, like, badassery, courage, and all that is that first step of admitting it. So that's what I would say.
Mhm.
Congratulate yourself. You have
Mhm.
admitted it. The second thing I would do is I actually have, I'll send this over to, I think I did send it over to you for your listeners. It's
Mhm.
called the Heart Aligned Career Transition
Mhm.
Starter. And
Mhm.
it walks you through like what I'm about to say right now, but in more detail. But getting clear about who are you today and who's that version of you that is doing the things. And not from a place of judgment of like, why aren't I there already? I've been 20 years in my career. Why aren't I already? No, not like that. More like I'm confident today and the version of me who is doing the thing that I want to do, even if I don't know what that thing is, confident and she takes like immediate action as soon as she realizes her desires.
Mhm.
Cool. And the purpose of knowing that is like, okay, realizing A, I'm actually pretty badass already. And B, like there's a path forward there. Cause then you can start thinking about, all right, how, if the version of me doing the thing makes quick decisions, how can I start to flex that muscle, so to speak? So
Mhm.
where in my life can I make quick decisions that don't feel so big yet? Maybe it's something simple like when you're at the restaurant and you open a menu and you're the person who asks everybody else what they're ordering before you make a decision. Maybe you're like, okay, today I'm not going to be that past Laura. I'm going to be that Laura, that badass Laura who already has done the thing. And I'm going to make a decision on what I'm going to eat for dinner without asking everyone. And you start there, right? So now you're starting to bridge the gap between the version of
Mhm.
you today and the version of you who's already living the dream. And I promise you, the more you do that, it's like you're stacking like brick by brick the confidence or whatever, the
Mhm.
peace or the joy, whatever it is you're looking for. And
Mhm.
then the next step I would look at is like, if you're not clear exactly what that next step is, and a lot of my clients aren't, and they start to think about, I don't know, from a skill perspective, maybe I should go back to school, maybe I should do this, like pause for a moment. You're trying to look like 10 steps ahead. And, Michelle Chalfant, who's my mentor and how we know each other, talks about you just need the first or like the next step on the illuminated path.
Mhm.
So if you're like, and I did have a client like this, or like, I think I'm going to go back to school to be a psychologist or maybe a therapist. I'm like, okay, before you get that degree, clearly you're interested. Let's test the interest. Take a workshop, take a class, go look at like an online course and be very mindful and aware of how you feel while you're doing it. Does it still feel right? Okay, then maybe you keep pursuing it. Or maybe you're like, oh, I don't know about getting an actual degree, but actually, this coaching stuff, I can get with that. So maybe it's a
Mhm.
certification instead. So
Mhm.
I think like that's the biggest thing I want to say to like your listeners. And also, I say to my clients, you don't need the whole 10-step plan because
Mhm.
chances are
Mhm.
your biggest expression of who you are, like your imagination, no matter how big it is, can't even grasp it.
Mhm.
The thing to do is to just get clear enough, especially the who aspect, so that you start building yourself up to become that person and then be aware of how you're feeling. What are some of the things that you're liking as you're taking the next step? Do you still like
Mhm.
it? Do you need to
Mhm.
pivot? And then bit by bit, you'll suddenly look around and be like, "Oh shit, I'm here." And
Mhm.
it didn't
Mhm.
even feel that hard. Like I said, the
Mhm.
hardest part is admitting that you want something different. The hardest and
Mhm.
bravest part, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. The deepest work is the work you can't see. It's in your brain. It's the inner work.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you brought that in because once the mindset and once your brain is on board, then those steps become easier.
Mm-hmm.
Um and they kind of start showing up as well. And this is why I love the not creating the whole plan in advance is because the one step reveals the next, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
it reveals a couple of options and you can feel what you feel more excited towards. So
Mm-hmm.
when you have that whole plan in place, you have the whole step, the whole roadmap set up, and then these other opportunities show up. It almost feels a little bit more confusing. It's almost easier to
Right.
just, well, I mean, it's easier on all levels. It's easier on your brain, on your mindset of, oh, I just got to take one
Right.
step, and then the next one reveals itself. So I love that you brought that in. And then the decision making, the making small decisions that aren't so
Mm-hmm.
big, building the confidence. It's like you're self-trusting more.
Yes,
It's that
exactly.
self-trusting yourself, like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad. Oh, that was easy.
Yeah,
Oh, that was
exactly.
a great decision." I mean, it's like, am I gonna have the salmon or am I gonna have the pasta?" And then,
Mm-hmm.
like, you make the decision, it's like, "Oh, that was a great choice. That was a
Mm-hmm.
great choice," and then it just becomes easier and there's, like, the self-trust and the confidence that
Yes.
comes in. So, I love that. Um, you just real quick, you're talking about these pivots and you just made a really big one recently that you've just shared with us. And would you mind sharing how old you are? Because
Oh, sure.
I like to share with the listeners. A lot of times when I hear about women in midlife, like I'm in my 50s, and then many times around that 50 age mark, when I speak to women, they're like, well, this wasn't what I really wanted for my life, but it's too late now to make a pivot.
Oh.
So
Mm-hmm.
what if you don't mind sharing your age and what you think about that?
Yeah. So I am turning 40
Okay.
this year. I'm turning
Okay.
40.
Mhm.
That's why I'm like, woo, midlife.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
entering. A lot
Yeah.
of my clients actually are those in their 50s. I
Mhm.
have one client that I'm thinking about right now. She was like high executive in corporate and then
Mhm.
pivoted. I think
Mhm.
she's in her early to mid 50s and
Mhm.
decided to start her own company.
Mhm.
And so I think the narrative that it's too late for me,
Mhm.
and I say this with such kindness and love, is fear dressed up as practicality. I think
Mm.
I think it's coming from fear because it is easier to say it's too late for me than it is to start something new.
Mm.
Because the truth is whether you are 50 or you're 25 and you're starting something new, it feels scary.
Mhm.
It feels just as scary. The difference is when you're older, you have a lot more stories that you've told yourself over the years. And so
Mm.
that's why it can feel a little bit the inner work may feel a little bit harder. And at the same time, just know that it's still just a story.
Mhm. Oof. That's good, Laura. That's really good. I love that. Fear dressed up as practicality.
Mhm.
Love that. Love that. Okay, if you could go back to the Laura who was just starting off her career right out of college,
Mhm.
and you were going to give her one piece of advice about pivots to come, what would it be?
Mhm. Oh my gosh. Don't get attached to the plan
Mm.
because I was that person that always had a plan. And especially for high achievers, and I'll just give a quick background. I was the person that decided and then did it, and then it happened for me. Decided, did it, happened for me. And so when the
Mm.
first thing happened, my first pivot, when I'm like, this is not going according to plan, I freaked out because I was
Mhm.
so used to my plans working out. So
Mhm.
that's what I would tell her is don't get
Mhm.
attached to the plan. You can keep planning, but don't get attached to the plan.
Mhm.
You know,
Mm.
and for your listeners out there who are like a little bit control freaks like I was, and who are like, what do you mean take the next step? I, even knowing this and being trained that the next step, in even looking back in my life
Mhm.
and seeing the evidence that that's true, there was a part of me that just could not make a plan. So if
Mhm.
you, the listener, if you're
Mhm.
relating to that at all,
Mhm.
go ahead and make a plan. Just remember not to get attached to it. I used
Mhm.
to write in all my because I'm a spreadsheet person, surprise,
Mm.
surprise, as an
Same.
engineer,
Same.
right? My plans would be in a spreadsheet, really, life plans, not just like for work. At the very top of it, I would write, don't get attached to the plan. And then
Mm.
below it, I would write, your plan is written in pencil. So yes,
Mm.
that's what I would say to my younger self. I don't think she would listen, but
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
maybe that lesson, if she wouldn't listen straight out of college, she'll remember it sooner than,
Mhm. Yes.
because I think I was 10 years in
Yeah.
corporate before I finally realized, okay, I need to let go of the plan.
Wow. That's a great one. I love that. Love, love that. Okay, Laura, I know I've already taken plenty of your time. Is there any one final piece of advice or thought you want to leave the listeners with?
Yes. What I like, one final thought I want to say is that if you're listening and you've been listening to Sonia, who's amazing, then whatever is in your heart that's wanting to speak, listen. Again, you don't have to take any action other than to listen.
Thank you. That's the message I preach. So thank you so much. Laura, how can people work with you if they're in a place where they might want to explore, making a transition or pivoting or something like that? Can they work with you and how can they get in touch with you?
Oh, absolutely. You can book a call. You can look at my website, www.leadintact.com.
Mhm.
You can follow me on LinkedIn. It's just my name, Laura Dionisio. And my Instagram, I'm very active on social media. I'm really goofy there, actually. So if you want to laugh while
Yes.
having some life insights, that's at laura.m.dionisio.
Mhm.
And book a 20-minute call.
Mhm.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's
Just
see what's
explore
in your heart.
it.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
explore it.
Just explore it. That's all it is. One little step, no commitment. Do it.
Mhm.
All the links are in the show notes so that they can get in touch with you super easily. And the guide that you shared with us, that
Yes,
gave me
the
the
heart
link as well.
aligned. Yeah, the
Mhm.
heart aligned
That's
career transition starter.
mhm.
That's there as well.
That's in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. It's been so lovely. I still have so many questions, but this has been amazing. And we'll have to continue the conversation another
Yeah.
day. So
Thank you for
awesome.
having me, Sonia.
Of course. Thank you.